This is going to be my review for the Ahsoka Show first 2 episodes series premiere, and in here I'm going to talk about the good and the bad. So something that's more of a red flag and it doesn't sway too much to the negative or the positive is that we finally have an opening crawl here for one of these Star Wars shows here, though it's not the classic one that we've seen in the movies. It doesn't have exciting pumpy music to get you started for the story here. It's a little bit more ominous and eerie. Some other red flags here is that I guess the villains in the story are looking to find Thrawn, and Ahsoka is looking to find a map, and she has found somebody to help her find Thrawn and so forth. But where is Luke Skywalker? Why doesn't she contact Luke or Han and Leia to prep them for a possible return of this Admiral and the Imperial Remnant as well? You know, just to stay on the optimistic side, perhaps they will be contacted later in the series and we will see Luke Skywalker and possibly even Leia and Han Solo. Luke Skywalker definitely will have to have some kind of appearance or mention, because we know that Ahsoka has contact with him, as we saw in the book of Boba Fett when he was training Grogu. It already looks like they're trying to do their own version of that, and if they do a copy and paste and just kind of put Ahsoka in their pasting of that story, then it's going to come off as disingenuous, and it's kind of just going to be like a middle finger to that story, to Timothy Zahn and the fans of that story, because for many years people saw that as the real sequel trilogy for the original movies. The big negative here that sticks out like a sore thumb happened during the fight with Sabine Wren and this new Dark Force user called Shin that follows Balin's skull. And in this fight, Sabine gets wounded. Not really a flesh wound. She gets a lightsaber right through her stomach. She gets impaled with the lightsaber, just like Qui-Gon Jinn. And just like a few other characters in the Disney Star Wars universe, miraculously survived a stab impalement with the lightsaber. And it shows you how much of a joke this Disney Star Wars universe is, where people here can survive, you know, impalements with this hot blade that's going to burn anything inside your body. It may cover the wound on the outside, but it's going to destroy all your organs inside. It probably will melt everything on the surrounding area as well. You're not going to survive, plus you're going to lose a lot of blood there as well inside your body. And it's just really dumb, because you go back to how George did his movies. The lightsabers were super dangerous. You saw in Attack of the Clones, for example, when Obi-Wan and Anakin were fighting against Dooku, they got some cuts and lashes on their body and they just were out of the fight. They couldn't continue fighting. Then Anakin, of course, got his arm cut off, and even then he couldn't continue fighting. He was out. In this case, a few days later, or maybe the next day later, Sabine is in her bed and she says, I'm good, I'm all good, everything's fine, just a flesh wound, nothing really to see there. It just doesn't make any sense. The same wound that killed Qui-Gon Jinn, at the end of the day, these are hot blades. These things will kill you, and even if you get slashed by them, cut by them in any kind of way, you're probably going to be out in the battle like it was in George Lucas' original movies. Another negative about this show is just the pacing and editing, and as you can see right here in this example right here, you have Sabine Wren just walking around, looking around this area, this environment, and it just takes too long. The next thing that we see is her talking to Sabine about them trying to figure out this map that she found. So the scene should have really started right here when they're both talking. Just cut everything that we see here with Sabine looking around. There's a lot of this stuff in the show. It takes its real sweet time. There are moments when you could take your time with characters like this, but it happens too much. And none of this reveals any character or characterizations and anything that will make us care about these characters. In the case of this, the story is not moving forward. You just have a lot of stagnant moments, nothing happening, nothing revealing any character. The character that is supposedly revealed is more in the dialogue scenes that we're seeing here and in the action sequences, but we're not seeing anything like that in the slower moments where they think that, oh well, this is more of a serious type of drama, Star Wars drama, and that's why we're taking it very, very easy and slow on this. I just think it comes off as disingenuous and a little bit pretentious to try to think that this is going to make it more of a serious tone show or episode. The seriousness comes in the conflict and the story and the stakes at hand. A lot of the dialogue here also is bad. It just doesn't feel like these characters are the characters that are supposed to be embodying these roles. Like you have this captain for the ship, and you have also Balin right here. It's a little bit too pedestrian, a little bit too generic, and they all sound the same. Their dialogue doesn't add any characterization to their characters. It doesn't form any kind of identity for the character, something that's different and unique to that character in comparison to the other character. They all sound generic and the same. This scene right here introduced Sabine Wren, and for me it was cringe and irritating just because they really shoved in that punk rock music there for her, and it felt really out of place. Ever since Rebels, because I watched all of Rebels back when it came out, ever since Rebels came out, I just felt like Sabine was just stuck out like a sore thumb in this world that's supposed to be a space fantasy. She felt like it was somebody that was more from Earth being placed into this universe, and it was just a little bit, her character is just too on the nose in terms of the style that they're going for, and even just the dialogue here. Like I mentioned already before, the dialogue here that she is given does not really help the situation anymore, and she's supposed to be a lot older now than when we saw her in Rebels, so it looks like she just hasn't really matured at all, especially after a multiple years long civil war against the Empire. She doesn't look like she's battle hardened or anything like that. She just looks the same, and the point that the Filoni is trying to do here, that she's a rebel, it just kind of knocks you on the head too much. We all know they're rebels, or they were rebels, because now they're part of the New Republic, so it's just a little bit too much. And that music really isn't necessary. Instead of adding more dramatic beat music to be able to add some tension to the scene, it would have fit a lot better, because they're really pushing the whole girl power thing a bit too much here. Rosario Dawson, in terms of acting, she's very just kind of dull and just bland, a little bit too much stoic, and she doesn't have a lot of the charisma and joy that we saw Ahsoka in Rebels and in Clone Wars. Yes, we know that she's been through a lot, and she's lost a lot of people and so forth, and has gone through a lot of stuff during her time since Rebels. I personally don't think she should have survived this long into past the original trilogy, because it kind of just, Disney Star Wars is ruining just the story itself of the original trilogy, because now where was Ahsoka during the original movies? What was she doing? Why was she sitting in the sidelines during the original movies? Well, how come nobody contacted her? How come Yoda didn't contact her? How come Ahsoka didn't try and contact Yoda? Where was she when Vader was around during the original trilogy and the Rebels were having a hard time defeating the Empire? Why wasn't she helping more? It's just, she should not have survived past Order 66, or at the very least her confrontation with Darth Vader in Rebels, where she really died. But because they had the world between worlds, Ezra pulled her out. Now it seems like we have another timeline going on here where she survives, but it still asks a lot of questions of what was she doing during the whole galactic civil war. So now all of a sudden you're saying that she disappeared all throughout the original trilogy, and she comes out of hiding wherever she was, and she says, oh, you know what? I'll take over now. I'll take over the Star Wars franchise now. I'll take over looking for Thrawn and the Imperial Remnant. Luke Skywalker, we don't need you right now. You can go ahead and just do your Jedi thing. And Princess Leia, you can go ahead and just do some bureaucratic stuff. Don't worry about any Imperial Remnant threats coming back or anything like that. It just doesn't make any sense, and more reason why we need to see those characters. And in a story like this, they would be very prevalent in any kind of return of the Empire. Now, another negative for me, and many fans have also discussed this, is how the actress that's playing Hera here, she's just not as charismatic and like has that warmth that even the animated character had, and it feels like the animated character was just more human. And this goes for a lot of the characters, including Ahsoka in this show. The characters in the animated TV show felt more human, and it felt like they had more emotion, more warmth than the ones here. It's just bad casting in my opinion. I feel like the color, the skin color on it is a little bit too bright green. They're really trying to go for that animated look, and some of the costume details are a little bit too on the nose. It could have maybe been a bit more subtle on the costume details there. It just feels like they did a copy and paste of the animated character, but they lacked all of the charisma and character that character had. And it looks like a cosplay person just playing Hera. It doesn't look like an actor actually acting as a character. But we also have this character of Morgan Elsbeth, because there could be a more original Star Wars name there. That's literally like just a combination of more earthly names. It's a really bad character name there for Star Wars. She, I guess, is the one leading this crusade to find Thrawn, and she's the boss girl right here, telling Baylan Skoll, probably the most powerful of the three. There, he should really be the leader, but in this case, you know, more girl power, more girl boss stuff going on here. We have a scene here that takes place on Corellia. I think the last time we saw it in live action was in the Solo movie. But right here, they go there, and I guess they're asking questions about maybe any possible Imperial sympathizers still working at the shipyards. The whole shipyards are now working for the New Republic, making ships, also dismantling any Imperial warships from the Empire. But it's just kind of odd here how they set up this whole little subplot right here with these, which turns out to be Imperial sympathizers that attack them later. And they end up seeing this giant hyperdrive that's meant for a big warship for a super star destroyers, but they're going to use it for something else. The point about this is that it makes the New Republic look more incompetent. It just, how incompetent can you be that you don't have better background checks? And why are you letting ex-Imperials work on your shipyards? A bunch of very high priority assets in those shipyards. And the last thing you want is a bunch of ex-Imperials, you know, maybe stealing one of those ships and starting another war, galactic civil war against you. It doesn't make any sense. It just makes them look incompetent. This is Disney Star Wars. Stuff like this, they get away with this, and it just comes off as really stupid and makes the good guys look incompetent. We get to see Chopper here, which in my opinion is one of the very few positives of the show. Chopper is Chopper. They nailed Chopper. His personality is just like the one in the show, in Rebels. And this was one of the positives here. Now, Ahsoka meets this mysterious Inquisitor. There's a lot of rumors going on. Is it, what's it called, Ezra? Is it Kanan? Is it Barriss Offee? Could it be the, what's it called, Star Killer from the video game? It could be anybody at this point. It could even be Luke Skywalker's clone, like we saw in Thrawn's trilogy in the last one, Last Command. So we don't know who this is. The fighting here is okay. It's the one with Sabine Wren and what's called Shin. That was not that good. I think probably, if I have to say, the best fight was probably the one where where Ahsoka's fighting these droids, and then this guy, this Inquisitor. But it's definitely not something that is too memorable, and there's a lot of just bad choreography here as well. And I guess now this whole 2 episodes set up the story, and so hopefully episode 3 does improve the story and the pacing, because if you're gonna have 2 episodes with that type of slow pacing and not a lot of story there, and at the end of the day it was just to get a map or location or anything like that, and Ahsoka finds a location where she can find Baylan Skoll and so forth, and like we saw in the trailer, she's probably gonna go over there and she's gonna have that duel with him. That's probably gonna be episode 3 if anything. But if that was a story for 2 entire episodes and not a lot happened, they gotta pick up the pace so that the show can improve. This show will not save Star Wars. This is more of a, hey, you know what, it doesn't even feel that exciting. There's not a lot of hype for it. The only hype that you're getting from the show is from the usual suspect Star Wars shows out there shilling for the show. It's not very good. It's just badly edited, badly acted. It doesn't have a lot of story to it, and it doesn't feel very exciting. And knowing if this is supposed to be leading to the sequels, it even takes away more of the excitement. The show is not going to save Star Wars at all. Like I said, what's going to save Star Wars is a reset. If the show even tries to go to the World Between Worlds and reset from there and split the timeline and do a timeline where the sequel trilogy, the Disney sequels, don't happen, and they try to do another sequel trilogy, another sequel story that hopefully is better, then I may be on board. But at this point, they really need to do a full reset and also apologize to the fans, because the fans are really what keeps this franchise alive in many ways. Because when George wasn't doing the prequels for like almost 20 years, when there was not a lot of stuff going on after the original trilogy, it was the fans that kept the saga going. They were releasing books and merchandise and things like that, but it was the fans that went out there and bought that and kept the franchise alive, kept those movies alive in the pop culture conscious and everything like that. At this point, not a lot of people are caring for Star Wars at all because of the way Disney and Lucasfilm have handled it. So it's going to take a lot. This show is going to have to surprise us in ways, in good, positive ways, for it to have a chance to even try and save the Star Wars franchise. But with those first 2 starter episodes, it doesn't look like it. They're really shoving the girl power stuff in your face. A lot of the characters sound the same, generic. Ahsoka doesn't sound very fun or interesting, or you want to really root for her. And I saw in the acting and the direction that Rosario Dawson is giving. So it's really lacking in a lot of things, and that's not a good thing. If it keeps going forward with the way those first 2 episodes started, it's not really it's gonna be another forgettable Disney Star Wars show. That's going to do it for my review. Let me know what you think in the comments. As far as positives, I'll give you a quick rundown. Some of the positives for me were, again, seeing Chopper. Some of the visual effects here are good and better than what we saw in the previous shows, but there are some parts where it looks like they're obviously using the void. They are using more orchestral music, which is a positive. There was a moment where they added some punk rock stuff there with Sabine Wren's introduction, and that was a little bit cringe and irritating and too on the nose with Sabine Wren is a rebel or something like that. We all know that, but even then her character has always stick out like a sore thumb since her Rebels introduction. And I'd say that's about it. The visuals, more orchestral music. They're trying to add a crawl into this. And then I would say one last thing. If they're going to have the world between worlds here, there is a potential that they could turn this around. But it'd have to be in a crazy, like, radical, like, revolutionary way. That no franchise has ever done. And like Ahsoka goes and she does something that just resets the whole timeline, where the story can go in a different way in the next 20, 30, 40 years within this universe that does not lead to what we saw in the Disney sequels. And whatever they can do in that timeline, it has to be better, because that means they're going to have a second chance. If they don't do something better, or if they do about the same or a mediocre job with the new timeline, then this franchise is going to have to be sold to somebody that's going to know what to do with it, because Disney does not know what they're doing. But they have a chance somewhere in there with the world between worlds. Will it happen? We will see. I'll be bringing you more reviews for this show in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. If you like this video, hit that like button. In the meantime, I'll see you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.